All right.
I can't believe we didn't show HSOL on there.
I know, right?
That was a miss.
I'm gonna roast you on this one.
Yeah, you should send a complaint.
Well, so that was Infinex. Tell us what we just saw there. What is it about for people who've never seen it, or who don't even know who you are because you're from Ethereum and you're an ETH maxi. And
yeah, recovering ETH maxi. Yeah, so I started Synthetics, which is one of the original DeFi protocols back in pre-DeFi summer days.
You were one of the 3 first founders of DeFi.
Yeah,
like all of it.
Yeah, I think at the time there was like Maker, ETHLand, which was Aave, and us. There weren't too many DeFi projects around then. So, but you know, was building in DeFi for a long time. I got into meme coins on Solana in like 2023. And I think I just had this view that we still needed better UX. We needed to build better applications. And so we decided with Infinex to make our own full stack application. We launched with Solana natively, which was unusual at the time for a cross-chain dApp. And so we had native Solana and a bunch of EVM chains. But instead of using the typical dApp architecture where connect Phantom Wallet or connect MetaMask, we built a full stack signing architecture. And so what that video is showing is us now taking that full stack application and signing architecture and making it available to other dApps to use.
Okay, I got it. Okay. And so it's a cross-chain application, but you've architected it such that it's full stack. You can sign in with a passkey. You can, I think you call it switch, which is
switch, yeah.
Swap and a bridge at the same time, right? How should people? Who's the target audience for this? How should people on Solana that are super into DeFi think about using it? How do they get the most out of it?
Yeah, so the target, I mean, obviously in the Solana ecosystem, there's a lot of trench warriors, right? And there's things like Photon. Like there's a lot of trading platforms that are designed for pro traders to be trading meme coins, sniping launches, all of that stuff. And those are those platforms are great, right? Like they're designed to execute transactions super fast. avoid MEV, bundling transactions, but they're not necessarily accessible for a trader who's used to spot trading on Binance or Coinbase, right? So the thesis is if you want to bring those existing users who are on centralized exchanges on chain and get them trading meme coins, trading on Jupiter, trading in places like that, you have to abstract away all of the wallet architecture and seed phrases and so by using passkeys we can make that onboarding experience for someone who might have been in the space for a while but has only been trading on a CEX before, make it easier for them to get on chain without being a pro trader, without having to learn all of this new stuff that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the actual experience of using the application. You just want to be able to click buttons and do things.
Got it. Okay, so this isn't it's not for replacing the Trench Warrior's favorite trading app. It's more because you're anti-sex, basically. Like
Yes.
you're casting war on Andrew, who was just here from Coinbase.
Yeah.
And tell me, maybe just to challenge you a bit on that, why should people use decentralized exchanges over centralized exchanges? Like, what tangible benefit do they actually get?
Yeah, I mean, the benefit, and this is, building in DeFi for a long time, I've had to kind of unlearn a lot of things that in the olden days, right, 2017, 2018, we used to kind of live and die based on, right? So one of the things that we used to believe really deeply was this idea that everything has to be maximally decentralized, everything has to be censorship resistant. Applications at the application layer have to be censorship resistant. And so the challenge if you do that and you have that approach is that you're never going to be able to compete with the experience of a centralized exchange. And so with Infinex, we don't try to be censorship resistant, right? We're non-custodial, but not censorship resistant. So we give you the feel and the look of a Web 2 experience, but without kind of needing to do all of the difficult things, needing to learn new things. And so I think the reason why you should trade on-chain, not just because that's where the alpha is, right? But also because it allows you to have self-custody. But self-custody as a feature for most users is not that interesting. It's definitely better, but it's not enough to kind of move the dial. You need to have other things that make trading on chain better. And I think that for most of the people in this audience, this is an easy pitch, right? We know that the tokens that you want to trade are on chain first. They're on Pump or they're on some other launch pad first, or they're trading on Jupiter or wherever. And then everyone else who's only trading on CEXs has to wait 2 days, 5 days, 2 years, for those tokens to be listed. And so there's a huge advantage if you can trade on chain, if you can be on chain and have access to any asset that's trading in Orca or Radium or whatever. But again, not everyone is deeply technical enough to want to deal with seed phrases, self-custody, et cetera. So we need to find a way to bridge that gap, make it easy for people to get on chain so that they aren't sitting on Binance waiting for something to get listed. And that's, I think, obviously where the world has to go. Centralized exchanges are great technology. They abstract away a lot of the challenges that you have, gas, chains, etc. But they don't necessarily, make the experience of using crypto, especially when you're talking about DeFi protocols, right? Binance doesn't do anything for Camino. Like, Binance can list a token for you and cause the token price to go up, but they're never actually going to deliver any kind of real value to a protocol. They're not going to make Jupiter trading better or put more liquidity into Orca or do any of those things that you want. Whereas an on-chain platform where all of the protocols are being aggregated into this single UI layer actually puts value back into those protocols and tokens directly by creating more transactions, by making it easier to use them. And so, in that way, CEXs are kind of parasitic. They suck liquidity off chain and have it in their own little silo, but they don't really give much back. They're mainly extractive.
Got it. Okay. You are obviously, you were telling me about how somebody, when you were walking around, was like, how come you're a speaker? I have no idea who you are. And that's obviously hilarious because you're literally one of the founders of DeFi. But Solana is a very new ecosystem, comparatively speaking, to Ethereum. And so with that, I want to ask, having been in Ethereum since literally day one, and also having been actually pretty early, I would say, to Solana, comparatively speaking to, let's say, other DeFi folks from Ethereum, what do you notice as like the biggest differences between the ecosystems and DeFi specifically? And what can they learn from each other, perhaps?
Well, the funny thing is when I first got added to the Solana DeFi chat, which I think was like mid-23 or something like that, I had this very like funny realization that there were all of these like super smart people that were building like very interesting DeFi primitives, but they were really kind of ignoring everything that had happened in ETH. And so I would watch these debates happen where it would be like, hey, what about this and what about this and this weird thing? And it's like ETH DeFi people had already gotten wrecked by this. And the Solana DeFi people were like, no, we really need to also be wrecked by this before we learn the lesson. Like they didn't want to learn any lessons from Ethereum, even the retarded stuff that the ETH maxis did, which I thought was like kind of hilarious because, obviously in Ethereum DeFi, we all ignored everything that TradFi had learned over hundreds of years and just had to like relearn everything. So it was funny to see another ecosystem just being like, no, there's nothing to learn over there. We're just going to do it ourselves. And I think the second thing that was really interesting to me is that the engineers and the engineering mindset in Solana is quite different to Ethereum, just in the way that that people think about things. We have obviously an EVM and a Solana team in Infinex, and the Solana devs are just a lot more pragmatic. Like they're really looking for like how do we actually solve the problem in the most straightforward and pragmatic way. Whereas in Ethereum, I think there's a lot of things that people feel like they need to do because it's the way that it's done, and it's not always super pragmatic. So I think that was one of the most interesting things is seeing like, oh, you can just do something this way, and so therefore we should do it, which has allowed Solana, I think, to move a lot faster, and especially when it comes to building consumer applications, you just want to pragmatically solve the problem. You don't need to create this whole convoluted system.
Got it. Well, we're almost out of time here, so how should people get started with Infinex? What should they do? The first one or two things.
Yeah, so the big thing is Infinex Connect is launching in a couple of weeks. So you'll see we're going to have a few apps launching like probably like early June through until July. So yeah, that's the plan is to make the Connect SDK available to dApp developers in Solana so they can start building multi-chain dApps and sucking liquidity from other ecosystems into Solana.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's all the time we got. Thank you, everybody.